Welcome to historic Oakwood Cemetery in Syracuse, New York. Oakwood was established in 1859 as part of the rural cemetery movement. It was planned and landscaped as a park-like area where city residents could escape the dirt and dust of downtown streets. There are 159 acres in this cemetery, with over 60,000 burials. You can see our starting point for this tour just ahead, the chapel. It was built in 1879 of Onondaga limestone. It has an attached crypt in the back. But it's time to get started. Today we're going to visit 8 mausoleums in Oakwood Cemetery. You know, they come in all shapes and sizes, some plain, some ornate, and some have some very interesting stories. This is the Shipman Mausoleum, and it's the smallest mausoleum in the cemetery. It belongs to a central New York doctor, Azariah B. Shipman, born in 1803. He was quite well respected as a surgeon. In 1830s, a Cortland newspaper reported that Dr. Shipman amputated a leg in less than 4 minutes, and they added, "The patient lived." In 1861, Dr. Shipman enlisted in the Union Army at the age of 52. He resigned less than 2 years later, a sick and broken man. He died in 1868, and he and his wife Mary occupy this mausoleum. This is the mausoleum of Cornelius Tyler Longstreet. Located in Section 3, it's a 70-foot high pyramid with a cross on the top. It's on a ridge overlooking Dedication Valley and dates from 1875 when Longstreet replaced an earlier structure that was deemed unstable. Has quite a view from this area. Longstreet made his fortune in the mass production of clothing. He learned this process in New York City as a young man. Now, sewing machines began to replace tailors and seamstresses, and when the Civil War broke out in 1861, Longstreet was ready. The Union Army required tens of thousands of wool uniforms, and Longstreet was there to provide them. The door facing the valley is the entrance to a large interior room. Now, it was furnished with rugs and chairs, tables, vases for flowers, everything a visitor needed for comfort as they visited the dearly departed. This mausoleum in Section 12 belongs to Burr Burton and his extended family, all 21 of them. It was designed by Syracuse architect Horatio Nelson White. It's 40 feet high and has quite a bit of ornamental detail. When it was built in 1866, it was said to have cost $8,000. Well, that's over $140,000 in today's money. The condition of this mausoleum is not good. You can see numerous cracks, moved stones, and missing pieces. Burr Burton, in the 1850s, was one of Syracuse's wealthiest salt barons. His income for the year 1865 was $31,000. Today, that is equal to over $500,000. His story, however, does not have a happy ending. Seems on the evening of May 4th, 1865, a burglar broke into the Burton residence at the corner of Carbon and Danforth and shot Burr Burton. He was mortally wounded, dying the next day. By the way, Azariah Shipman, M.D., was called to attend him. No one was ever convicted of the murder, although his oldest son, Henry, was under suspicion for many years. When Henry B. Burton died in 1890, the newspaper headline read that his, quote, life was clouded by the distrust of his townsmen. This mausoleum belongs to the Benedict family. located in Section 3, you can see that it has been sealed up with cement blocks. In 1988, vandals broke in and did considerable damage. Other mausoleums, including Longstreet's Pyramid, have been sealed in the same way. This is a rather modest structure for a rather significant family. Maynard Stewart Benedict was the founder of the M.S. Benedict Silver Plating Company in East Syracuse. Their silver pieces are highly collectible today. The residents of this mausoleum are another story. There are 4 of them: M.S., his wife Lila, his son Harry, and Harry's wife Sybil. Now, when M.S. died in 1902, Harry took over and the firm wound up bankrupt. By 1906, the company had reorganized, but things were still not going well. It seems Mother didn't approve of Harry's marriage to Sybil Dunn in 1898, even refusing to attend the wedding. Lila Benedict turned against her son for marrying, accusing him of everything from stealing money from the company to turning her out on the street. Poor Sybil didn't stand a chance. Lila died in 1909, Harry in 1931. Sybil hung on as long as she could, dying in 1951. Quite a group locked in that mausoleum. This unusual mausoleum is located in Section 15 of Oakwood Cemetery. It belongs to John M. Whiting, M.D. Now, in 1875, Dr. Whiting and his wife Mary took a trip around the world. While in the Orient, they no doubt saw structures called stupas. A stupa is a Buddhist architectural form used to mark a sacred spot. Now, although it closely resembles a stupa, we just call it the beehive. Whiting came to Syracuse in 1837 as a civil engineer. Then he studied medicine with Dr. Hiram Hoyt, and eventually he went on the lecture circuit. He earned a fortune lecturing on physiology, anatomy, and other natural sciences. Whiting is best known, however, as the proprietor of the Whiting Opera House. In the early 1850s, Whiting bought an entertainment hall at the corner of Water and Salina Streets. It burned in 1856. He rebuilt bigger and better, and in 1870 renamed the building the Whiting Opera House. In July of 1881, it was destroyed by fire, and he rebuilt again. When it burned once more in 1896 and reopened in 1897, it was being run by his widow, Mary. By the way, Mary remarried and is buried with her second husband in Section 59. This is one of the grandest mausoleums in the cemetery. Located in Section 65, it belongs to Lyman Cornelius Smith. It's of Beaux-Arts style, constructed of white granite with white marble inside. It has classical pottery on either side of the steps, and Corinthian columns ring the building. It features a large Tiffany stained glass window, sandwiched between 2 pieces of 1-inch thick plate glass. The cost of this structure in 1912 was $100,000. That's about $2.5 million in today's money. Few people realize that Smith's son, Burns Smith, decided that his father's mausoleum would be modeled after the mausoleum in Paris of former French President Adolphe Thiers. L.C. Smith was one of Syracuse's most successful businessmen. He came to Syracuse in 1875 and opened a lumber business. He was into firearms, the L.C. Smith shotgun, banks, railroads, steamship companies, steel mills, shipbuilding. The list goes on and on. When he died in 1910, he was an officer on the boards of 13 companies. Of course, he is most well known for one thing, the manufacture of typewriters. In 1890, he began the Smith Premier Typewriter Company. The company expanded over the years. Do you remember the Smith Corona typewriters? No wonder Syracuse became known as Typewriter City. This is the mausoleum of Alexander T. Brown in Section 71. It was designed by Brown himself in a very modern style. It's 25 feet high and made of white granite and is modeled after a skyscraper. In contrast, the interior is of black marble. On the back wall is a bronze plaque of a blacksmith at his anvil. That plaque is so appropriate since Brown was a machinist and a mechanical engineer with over 150 patents in the fields of firearms, typewriters, telephones, and automobiles. He invented a hammerless shotgun, which was manufactured by L.C. Smith. In 1889, he invented the Smith Premier Typewriter No. 1. This was the first visible typewriter, that is, the typist could see what was typed onto the paper. By 1902, he was president of the H. Franklin Automobile Company, a classic car made right here in Syracuse. Upon Brown's death in 1929, the Syracuse Journal publisher Harvey Burrell said it all. He said, as an inventor, he was a genius. This mausoleum is our last stop for today, and it is one of my favorites. Located in Section 16, it's that of John J. Krause. A newspaper article in 1885 described this mausoleum as English Gothic, having an, quote, elaborateness of detail, unquote. The article went on, the beauty of architectural lines are preserved from all angles of vision. It was designed by H.Q. French of New York City and built of blue granite by the Smith Granite Company of Westerly, Rhode Island. Its cost in 1884 was about $50,000. That's almost $1.5 million in today's money. One of the notable features is the absence of vertical joints, thus preventing water from entering the joints where it would freeze and expand, moving the stone blocks. The structure today, after almost 140 years, is still in remarkably good condition. If we look at this side wall, we can see how the rock-faced granite contrasts with the smooth-cut stone. Look at the detail in the tower. The arch of the doorway, a circle, diagonal lines, vertical lines, all topped by a pyramid-shaped roof. There are 3 stained glass windows on each side, and these windows allowed sunlight to enter and play off the interior, which was polished granite and Italian marble. The front doors are of bronze, and they have a very interesting feature. Each door has a lion's head with a ring in its mouth. Take a look at this sidewalk. It's all one piece of gray granite, 35 feet long, 5 feet wide, 10 inches thick, and it weighs around 25 tons. John J. Krause obviously was quite wealthy, having made a fortune along with his family in the wholesale grocery business. In 1865, for example, his income was $76,000. That's equal to about $1.3 million today. At his death in 1886, his estate was worth between $1 and $2 million, and that's equal to $28 to $30 million today. He also served as mayor of Syracuse in 1876. Terms then were for just 1 year. Well, we've reached the end of our tour. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe even learned a thing or two. This tour was presented by the Historic Oakwood Cemetery Preservation Association. Visit us at our website at HOCPA.org. Thank you, and come again.